Gather round. It's time for your Real Estate Chalk Talk with the Hittner Group. Listen closely as your coaches discuss the culture, the economy, and the political scene, and how it affects your home and your real estate investments. Real Estate Chalk Talk is where you learn the science of buying and selling real estate and the art of living in your home. Your education begins in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Hey there, welcome to the program. This is your Real Estate Chalk Talk with the Hittner Group, hittnergroup.com, 612-627-8000. That's 612-627-8000. Give us a ring-a-ling-a-ling. We'll be happy to have a chat with you about your real estate needs. And, of course, that call is with no cost and absolutely no obligation. Hittnergroup.com. Check it out. Lots of stuff to look at there. The blog site is super duper. And you can search for homes and set up favorites, do all the stuff that you normally do on one of the oldest real estate websites in the country. Okay, we got Joel Werner on the program today, and we are going to get into our real estate stuff in the first segment. What's on the market? Okay, we got 7,400, about 7,400 homes on the market. That's up 100 from a 0.7% increase from last week. Slight increase. New pending sales moving through, still slowing, kids. 827 versus 872. My eyes are playing tricks on me because they had all the same numbers, just rearranged different. 827 versus 872. So those pending sales are down 5%. So, the market is definitely heading into the August State Fair typical slowdown.
Yep.
And that's it shows the same thing. You can go back year after year after year, and shows the same thing. Last year,
pretty typical seasonal trend, right?
Real typical seasonal. Last year was even more severe in 23. It was down 922 versus 1,000. It's the same. It's the same. So I think we're in a real stable real estate market. The full implementation of the settlement of all the lawsuits seems to not have had that much of an impact yet.
Not yet.
I think we still have a lot of properties on the market that still are under the old contracts, and so they got to flow through the system.
So give a quick summary to people listening, Keith. Just what was that settlement, and how does it change the day-to-day business that you're doing?
So here's what the settlement was, and here's the gist of the whole thing. The Justice Department and the crux of the lawsuits were that buyers were buying homes, and the commission to pay their agent was flowing through the seller's side, and it lacked transparency
across the country.
Not
so much here.
Well, it was here too. I mean, it was handled the same way here, but it lacked the transparency part of it. It did lack transparency.
But not though. I mean, a lot of other areas in the country they don't have the same types of contracts that we have.
That's true.
That's
true. But the buyers still.
They don't. We're talking at the same time.
Okay.
They don't spell out the commission distributions on their listing agreements the same. Whereas in Minnesota, I mean, if you're going over the contract, then it does. It's very clear on what's happening with all of that money.
My point is on the buy side, the buyers were told it doesn't cost you anything because the money's coming from the seller. And that's not true, because what was happening is, of course, the full commission, both the listing commission and the buyer commission, were baked into the sale price, and the only one coming to the table with money is the buyer.
What do you mean baked into the sales price? I mean, that's one way of putting it.
Well, that's how it is.
But so are all his costs,
and
so are the title company costs. They're not baked into the sales price
because
the value of the house is the same, right? The value, what? If you do a market analysis, you're not like, oh, the value's this. Now let's put the commissions on top. Now let's put the fees for the title company and the mortgage company on top.
No,
nobody ever does that.
Keith, when you do a market analysis, though, do you not look at past sales? Isn't that how you do it? You look at sales of properties in that area?
Yeah.
All right. Didn't all of those properties in that area have commissions baked into the price?
Sure. I don't think that it's. I think that's saying that I think you're taking a position to say that costs of selling real estate are baked into the price.
Of course they are.
as a way of like
kind
somehow
almost hiding them.
Yeah, I mean
right?
it's all it costs money to buy a car.
Yes.
So
No one's arguing that.
Yeah.
The point of the lawsuit was not that wasn't going on. Of course it's going on. Just like the cost of a 2x4 is baked into the price of building a house. We don't isolate 2x4 costs. But what's happening is you've got one side paying fees for the other side, and it wasn't fully transparent because buyers are being told it doesn't cost anything. It doesn't, and that just wasn't true.
So then what did the lawsuit do?
So the lawsuit and the Department of Justice wants full separation. So buyers pay their agent and sellers pay their agent.
Yep.
Okay. So that's so
they want
that,
but that's not what's happening.
Well, it's what will happen. So now that's
there's a conversation to have about like long term. What do you think is going to happen?
Yes, well,
That's a
long
different
term is not as
conversation.
long term. We're not looking out 5 years. We're looking out a year, because now the focus of those same people that brought that suit is they're looking for contracts like ours. And like many others now across the country that have to be approved, like California has come out with their new contract, 15 pages long, ridiculous. They don't want to see any buyer commission pre-approved in those contracts at all, period. They just don't want to see it. It's the listing commission. If the buyer wants to have their agent, they got to pay their agent. If they can't do it, then they put it on the purchase agreement, and it's part of the negotiation. But no seller is going to agree to any amount up front, because that kind of goes around and is an end around of the settlement.
So if I'm selling my property, instead of it being like a 5 or 6 or 7% listing fee, it might be a 3% listing fee.
Right.
And you're just dealing with me listing my home, and that's it.
We're going to market the property.
But now
we get 3%.
But now I'm going to go buy a property, and he's my buyer's agent.
Right.
And now him and I need to talk.
Exactly.
And he's going to say, hey, to represent you, I need 2.5%,
I need 3%.
3%.
Right.
So, okay, now I owe you that, but you're going to negotiate that into the deal.
Yes, that's exactly how it's supposed to go.
You're shaking your head no.
That's exactly how it's supposed to go.
because I think the large real estate companies that are in the metro area will drive and market in conjunction with market conditions will determine what happens. And I think it will be cyclical, just like when you look at a large building company and they're like, we don't need you anymore, we're not paying out, or we'll pay out $5,000 or whatever. So I think long term, whether that's a year or 5 or 4 or 3 or 2, it impacts buyers' agent commissions more than anything else. So maybe you're seeing 2% or 1.5% or whatever the number might be.
Okay.
But market conditions drive that. Right now, market's not great for sellers. It's not.
Yeah.
You're not putting an $800,000 house on the market and it sells in one day with 5 offers. That's not happening.
Correct.
So when the market is like that, commissions will be less.
Yeah,
They don't need you as much. Just like the builders don't need you as much.
That's an interesting perspective.
When the market if the market continues to go like it does and the interest rates kind of stay in this like 6% range, inventory continues to increase, it's going to shift, which it already is. I mean, it is shifting to be more of a balanced market. And then if things don't change, then we're in a situation where it's a buyer's market. Okay? Well, sellers now need you. See, they need agents, they need buyers, they need all of this. So they incentivize. They incentivize with closing costs. They incentivize with free basements. They incentivize with higher commissions. Come show this house.
Right. That's what I'm thinking.
Right? So
now.
market conditions drive a lot of this.
We're talking about
So
two
now
different things here.
No,
but
we're
now
not at all.
Yeah, we are.
I could say, hey, I need 4%. You say, hey, I'm going to negotiate 4% for commissions.
See, you
instead of
guys are
2%.
focused on the percentage. I don't care about the percentage. I'm talking about the process. The process and the disclosure and the conversations that people have with their clients. How that money is funded is another story.
But senior, when you
But
sit
we
down
get-
with your client, hold on. When you sit down with your client to list a property for sale, you talk about how the commissions work. It's
Yes.
no different today than it was.
The difference
2 weeks ago.
is having
So
that
then,
client.
and then when
listen to me.
When you have a buyer and you sit down with your
Listen to me.
buyer and you say, "Here's how commissions work. Real estate side, this. You might have to pay this. If you go and walk into a house and you're still obligated to pay me this. That's on the contract. It's no different. like our
Well,
whole,
they weren't having that conversation.
but we were. Our whole our whole obligation to our buyer was to explain the process, sit down, have a buyer consultation, never show a property. Now the Zillows and the Realtor.coms and all that crap over the last 10 years, it's like, you just got to get out there and show the house. You just meet them at the door, and then you start the conversation, right? That's changed a lot. That has changed a lot, and probably sparked where we're at right now, because people are showing up at a door with a key as opposed to sitting down, having a consultation, and going through the process of people buying and selling real estate.
Well, if everyone was doing it like we did it, there wouldn't have been a lawsuit. There wouldn't have been a lawsuit because we were having the conversations.
Right.
The problem is that no one was having the conversations. That's what the lawsuits have now forced.
That's great.
Forced to have the conversation.
Good stuff. We'll talk more about it when we return, I'm sure. But Joe?
Yes.
Joe Warner from where?
Warner Stallion.
From Warner Stallion is in studio today
Glad
with
to be
us.
here.
So we'll have a conversation with him when we return as well. 612-627-8000 is our phone number. This is Real Estate Chalk Talk. Log on to our website, hittnergroup.com, HITTNER group.com, and we'll be right back.
Hey, welcome back to the program. This is your Real Estate Chalk Talk with the Hittner Group, hittnergroup.com, 612-627-8000, 612-627-8000. Joe Warner's in the studio. The Warner of Warner Stallion, is that right?
I wouldn't say it's a pretty big family. There's a lot of Warners.
Give us a little bit of the history, because it's been around. Warner Stallion's been around for a long time, and it's one of the few, businesses come and go. This one has come and stayed and has cemented itself really into the metropolitan area and the community, locked in. Tell us a little bit about the history, where it started, who started it.
Sure. The question gets asked, beyond our history, about our name, about our brand, where did the Stallion come from? So that was the original company, was Stallion Appliance. It just had the one location in Falcon Heights, right by the State Fair, Snelling and Larpenter, and my grandpa started working for Stallion Appliance in 1954. At the time, I think he had his first child. He started working there, needed to make some money. Over the years, the boss, Steve Farkas and Lillian Farkas were the original owners. So
Stallion.
Steve, Lillian, Stallion, that's where that comes from. So they were the original owners, but as the story goes, they weren't around very much. Grandpa was hired as a bookkeeper.
Okay.
And he was forced to be a salesperson because people were looking for help, and
nobody was there.
Where's the help?
Yeah.
So Grandpa would come up from the basement where the bookkeeping office was, and he would do his best to help customers. He didn't know what he was doing.
Yeah.
He had to learn. Became very, very good with. He always was, but he was able to use his connecting with people.
Okay.
He's extraordinarily good at that, and served very well in that community there, especially Como neighborhood of St. Paul, where they lived. So Grandma and Grandpa raised 9 kids right over by St. Andrew's Church, where they were parishioners. Because of having all of the kids, Grandpa decided, I don't make enough money at this place, and I'm basically running this place. And he endeavored to find investors and go and start his own place. So when he went to go do that, the owner said, well, why would you want to buy your own place if you could just buy this one? And so essentially was offering to sell him the business. And Grandpa used those investment resources that he'd gathered up and purchased the business, eventually bought the business out, gifted the business to his 9 kids. Through the second generation came a lot of expansion. As we were just one store until 1986, started expanding. Now we're fully into the third generation.
So you've made it over that hump, because most businesses don't make it to the third generation.
I mean, there's been succession to the third generation in terms of ownership, some degree of leadership. Some of the third generation, my siblings, my cousins are in corporate. Some of us are in store management. Really, is the business is still, by and large, led by the second generation and my dad's youngest brothers, Bill and Bob. They're twins, and they do. They're part of our executive board.
Okay.
They're making the big decisions now on expansion. Where are we going? How are we going? and they've, I think they've been doing a really, really great job.
Obviously.
With it.
Okay, so let me ask you this, because so many places do come and go, and they fail to make that second generation expansion, or because as the family grows, the business needs to grow as well if you're going to accommodate the family growth. What do you attribute your success to in terms of, you've got other places that sell appliances and your places, but you guys have surpassed them and have opened multiple locations with a broad product line. Why is that? What makes Warner Stallion so attractive?
I did warehousing and deliveries back when I was now my oldest son's age, 16, you get a start in that. And it was clear to me at that time, my uncle Bob Warner, who is now the CEO of the company and someone that I respect a whole lot, since from way back then, his people like to work for him.
Mm-hmm.
I like to work for Uncle Bob. He would put on his uniform and go deliver on a Thursday with one of the newer crew members just to, again, connect.
Mm-hmm.
And, so you've got this big wig at Warner Stallion. No one knows that. And he's showing up to the customer's house.
Undercover boss action.
Busting his butt, doing the job. He knows how to do the job. Mm-hmm. This guy is 13 years older than me, and he is cut. The guy has stayed in great shape all these years, probably with stuff like that. And I think that that's something that the people will notice and, step up their game a little bit. And
so you're talking about the employees.
It's a good place to work.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think, when you can be inspired by the people running the company and put a little bit of extra juice into your day, it makes a difference for our customers. So I think our customers have had the opportunity to notice as we've expanded around the metro area. Our customers have responded because they recognize the value in that fulfillment, the hard work that goes into a great fulfillment experience.
Mm-hmm.
I think we've built a reputation on that. If that's what I would attribute.
So
to
are you just in Minnesota? Have you expanded outside of Minnesota? Tell me about that.
Sure. In 2018, I moved to manage the Northeast Minneapolis store, which is connected to, that's our 10th store. It's connected to a fulfillment center.
Okay.
The idea with this fulfillment center is if we're going to continue to expand, we need another warehouse, or we need to move buildings altogether. And moving buildings altogether like our headquarters is in St. Paul. It's right-sized for us. So this other building is a auxiliary warehouse almost. That helped us expand into Iowa. So we went to West Des Moines, and we opened store 11 shortly after Ankeny, Iowa. And those stores are doing well. That market responded well. They did not have a very dependable independent of that size, that specialized in working on the contract side as well. We were able to build a network down there and kind of borrow some of our resources from up here, have people drive down. Eventually got a small fulfillment center down there to support those 2 stores.
When you say fulfillment center, what does that mean? Just because I'm not.
Warehouse,
Okay,
somewhere.
so you order all the appliances, they sit in your warehouse, and you're where? Your fulfillment center?
So the main one
St. Paul.
is in St. Paul. Yep. The auxiliary, which we expanded last year, about 30,000 square feet of warehouse space and extra dock stations. We really needed that. So now we run deliveries out of the warehouse where my store is in Northeast Minneapolis.
Okay.
And then we've got another one, and I'll be honest with you, in Iowa, I've not been to that building.
Okay.
I don't know where it is. It's smaller. We've expanded now to Kansas City, or Leawood, Kansas, which is a suburb of Kansas City.
So just heading down 35.
Yep. And kind of the strategy is we don't want to go into somebody else's house.
Mm-hmm.
Big box, we couldn't give us all the share we can get from big box.
Right.
We don't want to go in and bust up if
somebody has an established business.
Why even try?
Yeah. Right.
These are companies like us, and you'd talked about that. Very few stick around. Well, they did.
Yeah.
We don't want to go and compete with them.
Right.
So we're
going to an underserved market.
Correct.
Do you then acquire somebody in that market, or just start from scratch?
Yep. We look at the opportunity. There seems to be hunger there. There's opportunity there. I think one of the ways that they might measure that is this place, is like this. It's like Edina, because Edina is a great store for us. A really great staff, beautiful store. We serve a lot of customers out of that store, and we'll look at a community and say, this reminds us of Edina. And I say us. I'm not privy to or involved in these conversations, but Bob, and Bill and the executive team will hear about that.
So is your father involved?
He's retired.
Your father's retired. He's the oldest of the 9?
He's not. The oldest of the 9 actually was an NHL player. My dad is the third of the 9. Okay. And really he worked for Warner Stallion for 42 years and retired about 6 years ago. 5 years ago.
Okay.
So is staffing an issue then, or do you bring someone down, or talk about especially when you're expanding, how do you staff it? Who manages it?
Great question. We, always be grooming your successor is something that always rings in my mind. We're always building bench strength in the store management team, and there are multiple reasons, but one is so that if we do expand or if someone does leave, you've got got candidates, so they'll put it out there. And I think they take really good care of the people that move their families out of market to go and run a new store or work at a new store. They there's definitely incentive there for them to go down and do it.
We'll have more with Joe Warner from Warner Stallion when we return here. This is Real Estate Chalk Talk. We're going to head out to break now. 612-627-8000 is the phone number. Give us a call, 612-627-8000. Or log on to our website, hittnergroup.com, HITTNER group.com. That website one more time is hittnergroup.com, and we'll be right back.
Hey, welcome back. Welcome back to the program. This is your Real Estate Chalk Talk with the Hittner Group, hittnergroup.com, 612-627-8000. Keith, you done screwing around on your phone now?
Am I distracting
playing
you?
games? Yes, you are a little bit. Joe Warner's
Candy Crush
on the Warner's Stallion. How many metropolitan stores do you have?
10.
10 stores in the metropolitan area. Interesting, because I have some recent experience with Warner's Stallion. They replaced my wall ovens with new Bosch. I had Thermador wall ovens, and for one reason or another, the bottom one, after 20-some years, expected a little bit more life out of that than 20.
Yeah,
it was 24
only
years.
24 years?
24 years, the bottom one quit working.
Garbage.
We didn't realize it.
Garbage.
Until we went to put a ham in the bottom oven on, I think it was actually Easter.
Easter or something. Good
and,
timing there.
Yep. Yeah. The lights all came on like it was running, but it didn't get hot. And so we called them and went out there, and they replaced it with some nice Bosch appliances. What do you see is do you see a trend in the appliances, or what kinds of appliances are going in kitchens now as opposed to when you first started in the business filling orders out of the warehouse?
Definitely the style has clearly changed. 24 years ago when you put those wall ovens in your home, those Thermadors, you didn't see a lot of that stuff. You saw a little bit more run-of-the-mill, maybe the color bisque being pretty popular back then. Stainless wasn't as popular back then, and it really surged throughout that entire period. So now almost everything you see is stainless or some offshoot of stainless, like a black metallic-looking stainless. You see almost exclusively that. I think it is.
Okay.
Yeah, I think
Does it scratch?
Sure. Yep, it does. The black stainless, you can a lot of times scratch a finish off of that, where you'll expose what I presume is a high-grade stainless steel underneath.
So it's really a painted.
I don't think it's always painted, but I know in some cases it's going to be. In some cases, it's going to be a little bit higher end of like an acid washing process to get the stainless like that.
Okay.
It looks sharp, and it's like anything. If you put a scratch on your stainless, you're going to stare at that for the remainder of the life. And so
go with some steel wool and trying to get it out, and then you got a real mark on it. Yeah,
Steel
wool.
Idea. Don't do that.
I'm curious about that, because when I was in there, first of all, the breadth and the amount of choice was almost overwhelming. What is the difference between what would you say is the highest end brand that you can put into a house?
I mean, There are some French brands where, you look at like a Thermidor or a Sub-Zero or a Wolf, if we're talking cooking. A lot of people put that high-end stuff into their house, think this is the pinnacle. And then you see this French wall oven, La Cornue, and it's $20,000 for the wall oven, stuff like that.
So
what
makes
that heat different?
Oh, panache. I mean, it's not. Once you get to something like even a Bosch, like what you've put into your kitchen now as a replacement for your Thermidor, the differences are very fine up at that top. Tighter convection holds, better element construction or interior insulation or interior shape. These are the stories that they tell as you move up in that upper echelon of stuff that exists.
Is it worth the money, or is it an ego buy? Seems like it's an ego buy to me.
Well, it could. I would say this in terms of worth the money. And
I'm just saying
this will be along the lines of things that for sure you guys could probably tell me about. I've long wondered if you put a Wolf Sub-Zero and you put this kitchen in, doesn't that raise the value of the home?
Oh, no question
right?
about it.
So I think
there's an expectation.
That's right.
At a certain price point that you
this
have.
This is the house.
Yeah, that you have these kinds of accoutrements in throughout the house.
Right.
And one of them is
accoutrement.
Is the kitchen.
You got to use that word too.
Is the kitchen.
Accoutrement.
And so if you go in and see, a GE baseline appliance in a $900,000 house, there's a disconnect there from what one would expect to see.
So I think in that regard,
I have G.
Yeah,
I
what's up
absolutely
with this
value.
Kenmore side by side?
Yeah. That's why I said it.
Thank you.
But
I'm not a realtor.
So what's like now? It seems like so many of the things are high electronics and high. And when you go into, we owned restaurants, so all the stuff in our restaurants had none of that. It was on and off, lots of flame, hot, dialed in with real thermostat so you could dial it in. None of this electronic business. And now in the residential space, it's all about electronics and all that. Except when you get to the very, very high end, like a Wolf, some of the best ones don't have all that. They're more like a commercial grade. When you're cooking and when you're planning out a kitchen for somebody, how's that addressed, or how do you talk about that?
It can't be avoided. I mean, it certainly is one of the biggest topics would be how they've changed in the 24 years or the however long. When we talk about value, that's definitely one way that I would advise not to approach it is, I'm going to spend twice as much on this one because I'm going to expect twice as much life. Even a Wolf, because they are highly electronic. And I'll tell you what, to replace the electronic control panel on a Wolf, say, professional range is going to cost a lot more than you'll probably agree with. It's going to cost a lot.
You will agree with
Sounds
the
like
nuts
my
and
landscaping job with his kid.
the nuts and bolts that go into them are also expensive. It takes all those expensive nuts and bolts to build the nicest machine on the market. And unfortunately, I guess, in the context of this conversation, they are highly electronic. And they are susceptible to that same type of failure that they all are. And the purely mechanical, that a lot of times people will come in and that's what they almost expect. And so we have to talk them through. It's changed a lot. Department of Energy has driven a lot of this change for better or for worse. And the manufacturers they have to follow suit. Otherwise, they're kind of left in the dust because now that's what people think they're looking for.
Talk more about that, the Department of Energy, and how that has impacted how things are made and what the expectation is of their performance.
Energy Star has been a very big, I think, catalyst for some of the engineering change in the industry, which has guided us to highly electronic smart machines. For instance, dishwashers that might decide these dishes are clean enough and kind of push itself into the final.
Oh, really?
Right. The final moment of the wash, which, the rinse, the cold rinse.
Yeah.
And people just might not be aware that they work like that.
Right.
Not that you set it for normal wash. All my dishes are normal. It's normal wash. They run it through the normal wash after rinsing them at the sink, and they don't get they don't get dry dishes.
Yeah, it's like your dishwasher learns what's what's in there.
Correct.
I have a Bosch dishwasher, and it's like the cycles are different.
Right.
Because it's reading. And same with the washers and dryers.
Right.
Your dryer will read the level of dryness of the item as opposed to just like running for 52 minutes.
Most washers now are able to read the weight of the load, which helps it understand the mass of the load. How much water do we have to put into this machine? And that's a learning capability that keeps water usage down.
AI in your appliances.
However, if a customer calls and says, well, these top loaders,
Yep.
you've got clothes at the top that didn't get wet. How'd they get clean? Well, they didn't get clean, and so they're tricky to use. Some people never acclimate to the new high efficiency top load machines. I for one am a proponent of front load for that.
Is that just
reason.
an overload
Yep.
then situation for the washer? If it's a top load washer and their clothes aren't getting tumbled through, it's an overload.
Maybe, but I mean, imagine this as a consumer that you had a washer that wasn't as smart and capable and had like this agitator up the middle.
Mm-hmm.
You come in and you're looking at a high efficiency machine that's touted as bigger. How are you going to put smaller loads into that?
Yeah.
You wouldn't accept that. You'd be upset about that, but you're right though. That's one way to circumvent the way that they're built now is you adjust the way that you're doing things, which people don't generally
No, you
enjoy
jam it full.
Jam it full. I do the front
it
load,
full.
and when it's all the way there,
Yeah, when you can barely shut the door.
yeah, then she's ready to go.
Front load, you can get away with that.
Yeah.
I know. I
That's
do.
one of the reasons I'm a proponent
Yeah.
of front load is
Right.
you don't have to change anything, sir. You go ahead and
Always.
do what you
Thank you. Thank you, everybody.
Once a month is good for Calvin.
Oh no,
Yeah.
it's called Two Boys That Have Tons of Crap. And like, just load her in. Always cold, boys. Always cold.
Laundry
You
day.
can mix everything.
All right.
Letting you know.
So you kind of took me off the
Sorry.
pace there for a minute.
You got about 30 seconds.
Okay, so then what about longevity? What would you expect then? Like I got stuff in the house that's 24 years old, running like a champion. Can I expect that on the replacement item?
No, if you've replaced any items in the last 7 to 10 years, you're already on borrowed time is what
No
I would
kidding.
say. Mhm.
Really?
And that's the majority of what you can put in your
Even
home
the
now.
really expensive, the stuff that Keith has to buy for his home.
It's a little bit different because for a $5,000 unit, you're probably willing to spend $1,000 to service it at year 8. So it's a little bit different.
Joe Warner from Warner Stallion. You can Google Warner Stallion. You'll find them all over the metro area for all your appliance needs. Thanks for coming in.
Thank you, guys.
612-627-8000 is our phone number. Real Estate Chalk Talk. We're going to head out to break. Log on to hittnergroup.com, HITTNER group.com, and we'll be right back.
Hey, welcome back. Thanks for staying with us. This is your Real Estate Chalk Talk with the money segment of the program. 651-231-2500. That's the big money number to call. That's where you get the great rates and the low costs to originate. Calvin Kamick, ladies and gentlemen. What's going on in the money market, Calvin?
Well, I'm just running rates to see how much people are saving now that money's back to being almost free.
Okay. So cheap, it's almost
So-
free.
So it's good. Rates this past week are kind of. I locked somebody at 6 1/8.
Good.
So that's good. We've locked people between around 6.5 is norm, and then if it's a home ready, home possible, first time home buyer, there's a little bit of extra love that was given on those. So you're in the low 6s for that. So really good on rates. We're seeing refinances come. We're seeing people really trying to get their financial house in order, getting rid of a lot of the credit card debt. $1.3 trillion of credit card debt, 40% of it past due. I mean, we have such a huge problem.
40% of it past due.
Correct.
Wow.
So we have a huge problem in this country that no one's addressing. That's the financial literacy of what's going on in the country right now. So I think there's an assumption somebody will always bail them out, and so anyway, we won't get into that so much. So here's crazy numbers. You probably were watching this past week where they we talk about the jobs report a lot, right? So the jobs report is one of the major drivers for the Fed. And the Fed is the one that says we're going to put rates up, we're going to put rates down, and it has an impact on what we do as well. It's not direct, but it is and it isn't. So it's a driving force. The jobs number every month comes out, and they say, hey, congratulations, we created 200,000 new jobs. The following month, you'll always get hey, this month we created this, but then in the fine print it will say revised down, previous month revised down by 42,000 jobs.
Okay.
Has not been revised up ever, always revised down, which means they're pushing out a false number and then revising it the following.
On the QT.
Yep,
in the
fine
down
print,
low.
right?
Yeah.
On
Yeah.
the fine print at the bottom of your contract, right? So they do an annual revision. March to March, this last year, they did a revision. 818,000 jobs revised down.
So when they're touting that they've created more jobs than anybody since the beginning of time,
Yep.
that's a fabrication.
It's a fabrication. 1 in 3 jobs reported over that 12-month period never happened. 1 out of 3 never happened. So we listen to a lot of the people online. They're saying, hey, based on this data, this is where rates should be. And for the past year, and we've had the conversation, like I'm always like, they thought this. They were wrong. These guys don't even know what they're doing anymore. And I'm like taking shots at them.
Right.
Now they're on going, we were right. This is all BS.
Yeah.
The whole year's been BS. 800, and they finally had to disclose it. So it's horrible information for the current administration. Horrible. And it's going to drive rates down. We've all priced in a 1/4 point Fed reduction. So that's kind of priced in. So people are like, oh, I'm going to wait, and then I'm going to do everything. And then, Joe's going to buy some big house, and we're going to wait for rates to come down. Well, it's already priced in. That's why we're 6.5-ish. 6.5 is kind of the norm right now for 30-year fixed. So he might be thinking, Joe's going to like, well, I'm going to wait till this happens. Well, it's priced in, but now they're saying we'll maybe go to a 0.5 point.
Will that bring rates down even?
A little bit. A little bit. The
6
closer
and a quarter,
we get,
maybe?
Yeah, I think we're going to be, if we
High
stay
fives? Can you get like
maybe,
5.99?
Yeah, I mean, we probably could if you throw some juice at it. Maybe not a lot, but a little bit of juice at it, we'll get there. So that's what's on the horizon. But I'm staggered that the revisions are so huge. I mean, and people, and it just like goes through the news cycle, and no one like goes, this is huge.
Right.
You've been
See, I don't think the average guy in the street even knows what you're talking about.
Yeah.
Or if they hear it, it's just like want. There's so much.
I don't know. It's 68,000 jobs per month after the initial revision. So they give the report, they revise it down, and now there's another revision that takes it down 68,000.
Yeah.
So
They're off by almost 30%.
1 out of 3 jobs did not get created that they said got created. That data drives interest rates. You could make an argument that has driven interest rates higher because of false data, right?
So think of what that false data has cost the American consumer,
right,
who bought a home during that time period.
Yep.
Really the last 18 months, who paid a higher than necessary rate of interest based on false data.
Right, and how that impacts your monthly budget.
Exactly.
And leading to the trillions of dollars of credit card debt and et cetera that our country is
and you look at like 7.5% rates where we were for a little bit. We're at 7.5 30-year fixed down to 6.5. Even that 100 basis point drop, it's a $300 difference in your payment on a $400,000 loan. So most loans are around $400,000 now. It's a big deal. It's a big deal. So now what happens? Purchase prices increase, right? The ability to purchase more increases. There's a little bit more flexibility.
It's baked into the sales price of the house.
Well, it's always baked into the sales price of the home. But no,
that's right.
Re-listen to segment 1 for
a discussion about
discussion.
That. Yeah.
Interest rates should be 1%.
They should be. But
then the values of homes will go down.
No, it'll go up.
Cost.
They'll go up a lot.
Yeah.
They'll go up.
So the point is, and we're not going to go down your weird road there, but if you look right now, I feel like it's a great market. We're still getting some seller paid closing costs. We're getting a little bit of reduction sometimes not, but we're not running into appraisal problems. So that's been good. That's kind of clean. We had it a little bit. Now it seems like we're okay again. And I don't know. It just feels like I feel like really good about where the market's at. I like where rates are at. I'm super happy if we could get into 5.5 to 6.5, and we just stayed in that 100 basis points for the next 15 years. Now I'm going to retire.
That'd be super.
Be super duper.
I have a question for you. So part of the DFL is running their Democrats are running their convention this evening, and she's got part of her well, the only part of any kind of a plan that she has revealed is this $25,000 for first-time home buyer.
You betcha.
So I'm curious about that because there's already so much money available. How can you what good is that going to do? I don't see what that's going to do.
It shows you the clear disconnect that they have with what's really happening, because everybody that actually knows what's going on I can give you $35,000 right now if you're a first generation. I can give you $18,500 with Minnesota Housing. I can give you $23,000. I can give you $30,000 Woodbury if you want to move to Woodbury. If you make under $146,000, I can give you $30,000.
And you can stack it.
You can stack some. Yeah, I've had me and Jared were reviewing our numbers. Gosh, we did that many grants and stuff like that. We had just under $350,000 of grant money last month. But I had 3, which was $51,000 per transaction. That was $150,000 that we just now,
money.
Some of it has to get paid back.
Eventually.
It's going to come to bite everybody in the ass, which nobody realizes. When they go to refinance, they go to sell, and they think their payoff is $200, and it's really $250.
No, because you've educated them on the loan that they're taking out. There's no way they will understand.
Yes,
you educated them.
It's all about that. That's what the lawsuits are about. Oh, your lawsuit is coming.
Oh, mine's coming late. Mine came already.
Yeah, you have yours.
So you got yours
You'll
finally.
have yours second round.
So I do get concerned. I've said that on the show numerous times. I'm very concerned that people are not being educated properly to say, hey, this is not free money. Now, we have a $4,000 grant. You put 5% down minimum. If you put over that, we don't give it to you.
That's a Loan Depot grant.
Loan Depot grant. That's free money. $4,000, free money. So anyway, give me a call, 651-231-2500. 651-231-2500. Like to have a conversation with you regarding your money and your mortgage. So let's get back to Joe from Warner Stallion. And I have a question for you. What's the hot trends right now? Are you seeing? And is it kitchens? Is it washer dryers? What is the?
I from my little bubble, I manage our Northeast Minneapolis outlet.
Okay.
And in my world, the trends that I'm seeing is our customers still like a strong value. I really very much enjoy working in that environment as well. I like to know 100% without a doubt because we found this unique piece that's way under retail, we are well below what they can get somewhere else just because we found the one. And sometimes it would be higher end appliances that we would have where they're not otherwise discounted.
Where do you get your stuff from? Because we get everything, we buy everything at Warner Stallion just because the quality seems better, and you guys do service, you do stuff. I mean, it's
warranties.
Yep.
You mean where do we get our discount appliances from, or
do you have different warehouses that other people don't?
Well, we have more locations than any of our independent competitors.
Okay.
And we're still small enough that we can operate a little bit more nimbly than the big box competitors that we have. So we find ourselves in this little niche where we can do that. We're making a lot of deliveries on, they don't all go 100%. So if you wind up taking something back, we can't rebox it and stack it. It's going to go in some valuable real estate, and we've got to discount it to sell it.
Awesome.
That's cool.
That's it for this week on your Real Estate Chalk Talk with the Hittner Group. HittnerGroup.com, 612-627-8000. We'll see you next week.